Picture the immediate sensory shift. You're standing on these weathered wooden planks of Pontil San Agostino, right in the city of Como.
Oh, yeah, that exact spot.
Right. And the morning air, it just smells like this sharp mix of mountain pine, cold, fresh water, and, well, because you're in Italy, the unmistakable aroma of rich espresso drifting over from a nearby cafe.
Best smell in the world, honestly.
It really is. And in front of you is this body of water so intensely, impossibly blue. It kind of tricks your brain into thinking you've stepped into some saturated digital painting.
Like a filter, basically.
Exactly, like a real-life filter. But it's very real. And you're about to step down into a sleek, open-air boat that looks, well, like it was plucked straight from a mid-century spy film.
Very James Bond.
Very that. So welcome to the Travel Podcast by ExcursionPass. Today, we're doing a deep dive into this exact scenario.
We really are.
We're pulling apart the mechanics, the history, and, the hidden logistics of this highly specific, highly sought-after 3-hour Lake Como boat cruise, specifically focusing on Varenna and Bellagio.
And it is such a brilliant itinerary to dissect. I mean, we've spent an incredible amount of time poring over the route maps, cross-referencing the underlying maritime logistics.
Oh, so much time.
Yeah, and studying the architectural history of the shorelines you pass. Because the goal here isn't just to, read off a brochure to you. We are going to break down every single layer of this experience.
You're right. So you actually understand not just what you're seeing, but why it actually matters.
Exactly.
Think of us as your travel-savvy couple friends who have already navigated the crowds, figured out the hidden fees, and, lived this exact experience.
We made the mistakes so you don't have to.
Right. We want to bring you right onto that deck with us, anticipating all those skeptical questions you probably have right now. Because when you look at a short, 3 to 4 hour window for a place as culturally dense and geographically massive as Lake Como, a very natural doubt creeps in.
Oh, absolutely. The classic fear of missing out.
Yeah, is a short tour going to feel like a frantic sprint? Are you actually experiencing the lake or just checking a box?
That is the ultimate traveler's dilemma, isn't it? We constantly battle this urge to see absolutely everything.
Which is impossible, obviously.
Right. And it often leads to seeing nothing at all because we are simply too exhausted to process any of it. So as we dig into this specific route, we're going to dismantle that fear of missing out and explain the very deliberate, almost psychological engineering behind this specific time frame.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start with the hardware, because the vessel, it pretty much dictates the entire perspective of your journey.
It really does. It changes everything.
Yeah. So when you walk up to that dock in Como, you realize immediately that you are bypassing those massive multi-level public ferries. You aren't filing onto a floating commuter bus.
Thank goodness.
Right? You're boarding a specific class of boat, a Ranieri 22.
Which fundamentally changes the physics of how you interact with the lake.
Mm-hmm.
The Ranieri 22 is a nimble, shallow draft Italian boat.
Okay, break that down for us. What does that mean for the ride?
Well, when you take the Navigazione Lacchi, the large public ferries, their immense displacement means they are essentially locked into the deep central channels of the lake.
Ah, so they can't get close to the edge.
Right. They give you a macro view. You see the mountains and the distant shorelines. But the Ranieri, because of its shallow hull design, operates on a micro level. It actually hugs the shoreline.
Which is where all the good stuff is anyway.
Exactly. It allows you to see the intricate stonework of the retaining walls, the private docks of these historic properties, right up close.
And crucially, the capacity for this specific experience is capped at 12 people.
Which is a huge selling point.
It is. And the age range allowed is 0 to 99, which makes it this incredibly versatile generational setup.
Yeah, you could bring a toddler or your grandfather.
Exactly. So the engine hums, you pull away from the dock, and the urban density of Como instantly falls away. You are gliding north along the eastern shoreline, and the architectural language just shifts completely.
It really is night and day.
Right. You find yourself drifting past Villa Trubetskoy, for example, and the Mandarin Oriental.
Oh, the Mandarin Oriental is gorgeous.
Yeah.
But Villa Trubetskoy, that was actually built by a Russian prince in the mid-19th century.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. What you are witnessing on this eastern shore is essentially the physical manifestation of 19th century networking.
Wait, networking? Like social climbing?
Basically. Because before the modern coastal roads were blasted through the rock, the lake itself was the highway. These villas were designed to face the water because the water was the main entrance.
That makes so much sense.
Right. So the elaborate facades, the intricate boathouses, that was the equivalent of a grand driveway, intended to intimidate and impress approaching guests.
So the road behind them was just a total afterthought.
Exactly. So you were actually viewing these properties from their intended historical vantage point when you're on the boat.
Okay, I love that. But then, as you're absorbing all this aristocratic architecture, the geography just violently interrupts. You reach the Orito di Nesso.
Oh, the Nesso waterfall. It's incredible.
It really is. It's this stunning natural gorge where two streams converge and plunge violently down into the lake, splitting this tiny stone village completely in half.
The mechanics of that gorge are absolutely fascinating. I mean, for centuries, the force of that water fueled local paper mills and artisan workshops.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's a raw display of hydraulic power right in the middle of all these serene, manicured villas.
And spanning that gorge, like right over the plunging water, is this ancient arched Romanesque stone bridge. The boat glides right up to it, and you can actually feel the mist hitting your face. It's like stepping onto a movie set.
It totally is.
But I do have to push back a little here on the setup.
Okay, let's hear it.
I look at 12 people on a 22-foot boat, and my immediate thought just goes to weight distribution and cramped sightlines.
Ah, the claustrophobia factor.
Yeah. I mean, if we pull up to a movie set view like the Nesso Bridge, and the three people in front of me stand up with their cameras, aren't they going to block my view and, like, rock the boat? Is this going to feel like fighting for elbow room at a crowded bar?
See, that is a very fair mechanical concern, but it kind of ignores the actual design of the hull.
Okay, tell me why I'm wrong.
Well, the Rainier utilizes a wide beam and a pronounced chine, which is the angle where the bottom of the boat meets the sides.
Right.
This creates significant lateral stability. You aren't in a tippy canoe. Furthermore, a 22-foot open deck means there's no enclosed cabin blocking your peripheral vision.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, so 12 people can easily shift their weight or stand up without compromising the trim of the boat or, fighting for a single window.
So you really do get 360-degree visibility, and the skipper can just maneuver the bow right into the echo of the gorge.
Exactly. You are getting the proximity of a private millionaire's charter. But because the cost is distributed among 12 people, you avoid that astronomical private price tag.
It is the optimal intersection of maneuverability and economics.
Totally.
Which perfectly sets up the next phase. So we transition from the raw, natural force of the water carving out the Nesso Gorge to how humans carve their settlements into these incredibly steep cliffs.
Right, from water to land.
Exactly. You transition from floating observer to boots on the ground. The itinerary includes dedicated stops to disembark at both Bellagio and Varenna, which are just the absolute crown jewels of the Mid-Lake region.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah.
But the topography here is, it's severe. Varenna, in particular, is essentially a vertical village.
Right.
The houses are literally stacked on top of each other, connected by these really steep, winding stone staircases known as contrade.
And the itinerary gives you about 1 hour of free time in these villages. And I know instinctively a 60-minute clock in a centuries-old village sounds like an anxiety dream.
It does. It sounds rushed.
Yeah. You just imagine yourself constantly checking your watch, power walking past cafes, terrified the boat is going to leave without you. You're like, give me 3 hours in Bellagio.
I know, it sounds ideal until you factor in the reality of cognitive load and physical depletion.
Oh, interesting. Say more about that.
Well, this brings up a critical travel mechanism that people rarely plan for, which is travel fatigue. When you're in a new, dense environment like the winding streets of Bellagio, your brain is working overtime.
Because everything is new.
Right. You're processing the uneven age of the cobblestones, translating menus, maintaining spatial awareness so you aren't bumping into other tourists, smelling the bakeries.
It is complete sensory overload.
Exactly.
I always compare the specific tour structure to interval training for your brain.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, like in fitness, you do high-intensity exertion followed by active recovery. This itinerary operates the exact same way.
It really does.
You have an hour of high-intensity vertical exploration in Varenna. You hike up to the Passeggiata degli Innamorati, the Walk of Lovers. You grab an incredibly overpriced but absolutely life-changing gelato. You absorb the density of the town. And right when your feet start to ache and the midday crowds really begin to peak,
You retreat.
yes,
You step back onto your private floating sanctuary. The boat ride to the next stop acts as your active recovery. The wind cools you down, the visual landscape widens, and your brain just rests.
which is so needed.
If you spent 3 hours in Varenna, by hour 2, You would be fighting for a table at a crowded restaurant, sweating, and likely arguing with whoever you're traveling with.
Oh, 100%. So the 1 hour limit is actually a psychological guardrail. It forces you to be hyper-present.
Exactly. You aren't wasting time looking up museum hours on your phone. You are just instantly immersing yourself in the vibe.
You're getting gloriously lost in a narrow alleyway and making it back to the dock on a high note. You literally leave wanting more.
And just as you're refreshed, the captain points the bow south, heading back towards Como, but this time shifting to the western shore.
And the geography of the lake means the western shore catches a completely different angle of the sun, right?
Yes, and historically this led to a completely different microclimate and architectural evolution.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Because you're cruising along, and suddenly the aesthetic shifts from those charming vertical villages to sprawling cinematic glamour.
Heavy emphasis on cinematics.
Seriously, you are looking at Via del Biennello sitting perfectly isolated out on the wooded Levedo Peninsula. The itinerary explicitly notes it, but let's be real, most of us just point and yell, that's the Succession Villa.
Or the James Bond villa, depending on your streaming habits, yeah.
Right. It is arguably the most recognizable piece of real estate on the lake. And then you glide past Comacina Island, which is the only island on Lake Como, by the way, before hitting Villa Oleandra.
Ah, George Clooney's famous residence.
Of course. And then the massive sweeping estates of Cernobbio. Now, I look at this part of the itinerary and I have to ask.
I know what you're going to say.
Is this side of the lake just a glorified TMZ boat tour? Like, are we just floating along playing a game of celebrity house hunting and looking at modern television backdrops?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, it is far more profound than just a modern pop culture map.
Okay, defend the Western Shore.
I will. The film crews and Hollywood actors are really just the latest, briefest chapter in a very long saga of unimaginable wealth. The development of this Western Shore wasn't driven by cinema at all. It was driven by the silk industry.
Right, because Como was, and in many ways still is, the silk capital of Europe.
Exactly. For centuries, the industrialists and silk barons accumulated these massive fortunes. And how do you display that wealth in the 18th and 19th centuries?
You build gigantic lake houses.
You build estates like Villa Fontanelle or Villa del Balbianello. And here's the really cool part. The terraced gardens you see from the boat aren't just pretty landscaping. They are marvels of botanical engineering.
Wait, really? How so?
Well, the lake acts as a massive thermal battery. It absorbs heat in the summer and releases it in the winter.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. This microclimate allowed these aristocrats to plant exotic, subtropical vegetation that just absolutely shouldn't survive in northern Italy.
So when we are floating past Balbianello, we aren't just gawking at a temporary HBO set. We're looking at centuries of botanical mastery, neoclassical architecture, and this perfectly preserved monument to the European Silk Empire.
You nailed it. The modern celebrities just happen to have the capital to maintain these historic microeconomies today.
Yeah, it makes it so much cooler.
Exactly. The boat ride offers a chronological timeline of architectural evolution, perfectly preserved along the waterline.
Okay, we have painted a pretty incredible picture here. We have the physics of the gorge, the psychology of the interval training itinerary, and the history of the silk barons.
It's a lot of value.
It is, but the part of being your trusted guides means we have to pause the romance for a second and talk hard logistics, because in the travel industry, let's face it, there's always a catch. We need to look at the financial mechanics.
And understanding those mechanics is the absolute difference between a seamless luxury experience and a highly stressful morning on the dock.
Yes, so let's look at the pricing tiers based on our sources. If you book through the ExcursionPass platform, the standard adult price is listed at $139, with children at $69.
Right.
When you cross-reference that, it's highly competitive. The sources show the TripAdvisor listing for this exact same small group tour, starting around $181.86, obviously depending on exchange rate.
Checks fluctuate, yeah.
So the $139 base price for a 4-hour semi-private navigation of the most expensive real estate in Italy is surprisingly reasonable. However,
Here comes the catch.
here is the major hidden catch that will absolutely derail your morning if you aren't prepared. While local taxes and your professional skipper are included in that base price, there is a $40-30 per person fuel surcharge that must be paid in cash directly to the captain.
Cash in hand, that is critical.
Yes, you do not want to be the person delaying the departure because you are frantically trying to locate a working ATM in a foreign city 5 minutes before cast off.
The panic sweat is real,
It's the worst. And I have to admit, this structural quirk drives me crazy. Why a cash-only fuel surcharge? Why not just charge €179 up front on the credit card and be done with it?
It feels like a bait and switch, right?
It totally does. It feels slightly deceptive, like right at the finish line.
I get that. It feels frustrating from a consumer standpoint, but it actually makes complete sense when you look at the macroeconomics of marine tourism in Italy.
Okay, lay it on me.
First, marine fuel prices fluctuate wildly based on global markets and local Italian taxation. Operators have to set their digital platform prices a year in advance.
Ah, so they can't adjust it on the fly.
Right. If they roll the fuel cost into the base price, a sudden spike in diesel or marine gas means they take a massive loss on every single tour.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And there's the platform commission issue too, I imagine.
Precisely. Online travel agencies, the booking platforms, take anywhere from 20 to 30% commission on listed price.
That's a huge chunk.
It is. So by separating the fuel surcharge and taking it in cash, that €40 bypasses the digital platform's tax entirely and goes directly into the physical operation of the boat. It is a structural workaround to keep the business viable.
Ah, okay. So it isn't a scam. It's a necessary buffer against fluctuating overhead and tech commissions. Still annoying, but understanding the why makes it much easier to swallow. You just build it into your budget.
Exactly.
Excuse me, Captain, do you take Apple Pay? Is not a sentence you want to utter on this dock. Hit the ATM the night before.
Definitely. And the sources also note other exclusions you should be aware of. Gratuities for the skipper are entirely at your discretion and not included.
Good to know.
And those life-changing gelatos or espressos you grab during your hour in Varenna, also on your own dime.
Naturally. Now, looking at the logistics, the physical reality of this tour means it's not for everyone. The sources explicitly note it's not wheelchair accessible.
Which makes total sense when you think about the mechanics we discussed earlier.
Right. Stepping down from a fixed wooden dock into a floating 22-foot boat that is actively moving with the wake of the lake, it requires a baseline of mobility and balance.
Plus, the water levels of Lake Como also fluctuate throughout the season, meaning the angle of the step down to the boat is never exactly the same.
Good point. However, the departure point at Pontil San Agostino is highly accessible via public transportation, so just getting to the dock is relatively frictionless.
Yep.
So what does this all mean for our listeners' wallet and, their planning? Because if there is one constant in travel, it's that plans implode. Flights are delayed, trains strike, weather turns. The cancellation policy here is actually incredibly generous. You get free cancellation with a full refund up to 24 hours or 1 day before the tour date.
Which is great, but that flexibility creates a fascinating bottleneck in inventory.
How?
Because people can cancel without penalty 24 hours out, they tend to hoard reservations. If you look at a typical schedule, the current weeks often display as entirely sold out. Mondays through Thursdays are just completely blocked off.
Yeah, I noticed that in the source data. TripAdvisor notes this experience is usually booked 64 days in advance on average.
Exactly.
But there is a mechanical workaround for the procrastinators among us, right? The system algorithms have a quirk.
They do. The sources mention a phenomenon called special availability.
Let's hear it.
Because of that 24-hour cancellation policy, the booking algorithms will suddenly release held inventory for the upcoming week. So you basically have two strategic options.
Which are?
You either lock it in 2 months out to guarantee your spot, or if you're a last-minute traveler, you obsessively refresh the booking page a few days before you want to go. Those special release dates will pop up out of nowhere as other travelers finalize their logistics and drop their backup reservations.
It's a bit of a strategic game, but considering the density of the experience, it is entirely worth the effort.
Oh, absolutely.
Let's synthesize everything we've covered today. The ultimate value of this specific ExcursionPass itinerary isn't just about seeing pretty houses. It is a masterclass in eliminating travel friction.
That's the perfect way to put it. You are bypassing the macro-level crowded ferry system for a micro-level, highly maneuverable perspective.
Right.
You are engaging with the intense vertical topography of villages like Varenna in strategic 1-hour intervals that literally prevent cognitive and physical fatigue.
And you are witnessing centuries of architectural and botanical history along the Western Shore, all condensed into a window of time that leaves you energized rather than exhausted.
It is maximum density with minimum drag.
Love that. You arrive prepared, cash in hand for the fuel, completely aware of the physical mechanics of the boat, and just ready to absorb the environment.
Ready to go.
But as we wrap up this deep dive, it leaves me with this final, slightly provocative thought for you to chew on while you are standing on that dock in Como.
And this really gets to the philosophical core of modern tourism.
It does. When we book these highly curated, highly efficient 3-hour glimpses into places like the Succession Villa or the pristine promenades of Bellagio, are we actually experiencing local Italian culture? Or by gliding past the historical estates of silk barons and Hollywood actors, are we really just paying to briefly, for a few hours, cosplay as the billionaires who call it home?
Wow. It is a question that completely changes how you view the shoreline.
Right.
It asks us to examine whether we are travelers seeking connection or just an audience paying for a 3-hour theater production of luxury.
Definitely something to ponder while you're floating on that impossible blue water, feeling the cold mist from the Nesso Gorge on your face. Thank you for joining us on the Travel Podcast by Excursion Pass. We hope you feel completely equipped with the how and the why behind the itinerary and that you're ready to book your own unforgettable experience.
Until next time, keep exploring.